What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It Came from Beyond the Videostore Shelves, the video podcast where we dig through these endless stacks of unwatched VHS in my collections and hope to find that hidden gem that I've overlooked for decades. And in today's episode, we're going to go back to my favorite year for horror movies. 1988, and we're going to swim across the pond to the UK, and we're going to check out Unmasked Part 25. So this is going to be it's a horror comedy love story, and I gotta say that this is it's weird. It's one of those movies that's kind of hard to explain, but it's definitely different. So we have, well, let's go ahead and get to how the movie starts off. So when the movie opens, we come across a group of friends that decide that we're going to have ourselves a party at this abandoned looking home. So they go to this abandoned house. But what they don't realize is that there's a deformed hockey mask wearing serial killer along with his serial killer father living in the basement of this place. Even though, of course, they were warned by the town of Wino, that it's kind of, they were kind of trying to spoof slasher movies, mainly Friday the 13th. That's kind of what this film was portrayed as, is almost like a alternate timeline of the Friday the 13th series, and we'll get more into that later. But I always like in these movies where they have, the fucking dirty ass hobo drunk that tries to warn you of the danger. It always kind of reminds me of Mermaid Man, when they just want to show up and like, don't go in that house, it's evil, It's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, these guys don't listen to the wino warning. They go to this house and, they're sitting around, they're listening to music, they're going to have their party. And then that's when our, fucking Wish.com Jason shows up with his fucking goalie hockey mask, and starts picking these kids off one by one. And I gotta say, the gore is not bad in this flick. The effects and shit that they did look pretty decent, man, for the time. They got some pretty cool stuff going on. I wouldn't call it a gore fest, but the couple times that they do kill people, they look pretty decent. So he starts taking these couples out one by one, and when he gets down to the very last survivor, the final girl, he realizes that this woman is blind. So a little backstory. She goes out, this particular woman, she goes out with her friends, and they have a blind date coming, to meet her. No pun intending, because, she is blind, but they set her up. She's waiting for this guy to show up, and he never does. And this guy's name is Jackson. So Shelby's waiting there for Jackson. All her friends are disappearing. Now she's alone. And all of a sudden, this killer shows up to, take her out, and not on a date, to murder Shelby. And she mistakes the murderer for Jackson. So they kind of talk and all kind of stuff, and Jackson decides, which that's what we're gonna call him now, because they never tell you his actual name. He assumes the name of this gentleman that Shelby's waiting for. So Jackson decides that, okay, I'm not going to kill Shelby. This is the first woman to kind of pay attention to me, mainly because she can't see how grotesque my face is under this mask. So, maybe mass murdering killers can fall in love too. So he goes back to this girl's house, and they end up, fooling around, having some wild monkey sex. And it makes Jackson start to question, why is he murdering people? Why does he keep killing all these people? Maybe he could find love and be happy as well. Maybe he should stop murdering and, try to live a normal life with Shelby, because this woman is really kind to him. Maybe it'll work out. So, and that kind of gets to really the kind of boring part of this story. It's almost like a Oreo. You have murder on both sides and with some fucking love story in the middle. So, it was kind of boring when it gets to that. There's a lot of dialogue, a lot of just contemplation and all this shit. But I will give this movie one thing. Whenever he's killing Shelby's friends, this is one of the only slasher, monster slasher movies I could think of where one of the victims offers sex to not be murdered. He corners this one girl and she's like, "Oh, I'll suck your dick." Of course it didn't work, which, I don't know. I think I'd have took the deal, but he goes ahead and kills her anyway. But that's one of the only times in this movie where, like, the humor worked for me, because they really tried to make it like a horror comedy, but I didn't find it super funny personally. I didn't find it entertaining in that way. But yeah, it's he goes back to Shelby's place and they're talking, and he's kind of trying to explain to her, why he hasn't been lucky with the ladies. Why it's not working out for him, that his face is deformed and he has to wear this mask and all this stuff. And that's when, it starts to get Friday the 13th, when he talks about, well, I was at the summer camp, I drowned, everybody thought I was dead, but I wasn't dead. And he never comes out and confesses to Shelby that he's a murderer. But, he kind of drops a couple hints. They talk about his first time, and he said, his first time having sex was with a camp counselor, but she was dead. And Shelby takes it as she was a dead fuck, that she just laid there, she wasn't into it. And, they kind of drop subtle hints like that. And, they decide Shelby wants to go on dates, and they do that, a couple of times and stuff. It's just, the middle part was boring. Just a whole bunch of dialogue. There's at one point he leaves Shelby's house and he goes back to where he was staying, and he confronts his father, and they have all this talk and all this kind of crap. It was just kind of boring. That particular part doesn't do it for me. Anyway, when it start to pick back up, Shelby is invited by one of her friends to go to another party that they're hosting. And Jackson follows this woman to a bar, seemingly to talk to her. I don't. They don't really have. They don't really tell you what his original intentions were to follow this woman, but he follows this woman, and he meets with her and the rest of his friends, and it doesn't go good for him. They mistake him for a movie star because of these. Well, I forgot what they call them. They don't call him Friday the 13th, but they're like, oh, well, you must be in these movies because you're wearing this hockey mask and all this kind of crap. So that kind of pisses him off. He doesn't want to talk to these people. And it ends up in an altercation, and he stabs one of the gentlemen that was with this woman. And then he flees. So at this point, he decides that, now I can't really go to this party with Shelly because, I kind of already had it out with her friends. I stabbed one of them. So now instead of, going to this party with Shelly, I'm going to convince her to stay home, and I'm going to go to the party and kill all these fuckers. And that's exactly what he did. So he goes to this party and again starts murdering people one by one. But now every time he kills somebody, he has to fucking reminisce about the reason why he's doing this. So every time he fucking kills somebody, he has to, oh, well, this is meaningless. Why am I doing this? And it kind of, it's kind of out there. I get what they were trying to do, but, and I'm not going to give away the end of this movie. Feel free to go and watch it for yourself. It's not, I don't want to say it's a bad movie. It was definitely an interesting watch. It was unique. It's not really something that you see in these types of movies. I really enjoyed the slasher aspect of the film. Didn't really care for the love story stuff in the middle. It felt drawn out and kind of, just thick to me. Like it was extra padded. There was all this extra dialogue and all this stuff to kind of, keep repeating the same premise that, he's finally found this woman that he could be with because she can't see him. And, he's finally in love. Now he doesn't want to do this. He wants to start a new life. But how can he start a new life? Because he's hideous and he has to wear this mask and he can't go out without the mask on. And they just kind of keep beating that in. And I kind of thought that section of the movie was boring to me personally. And I didn't really get the comedy aspects that they were trying to get over in the film. There was a couple parts that I chuckled at. There was the woman offering blowjobs to stay alive at the beginning of the movie. Somewhere in the middle, when they're doing the love story portion of this, Shelley confesses to Jackson that she's into bondage. And there's this section where they try to be, kinky. And she tries to get kinky with him, and they want to use whips and all this stuff. And he's really not into it, which is kind of weird because if you were, a fucking hockey mask wielding psycho killer, I think you would kind of get into tying people up and beating people with shit. But he did not like it. And, they kind of had that section, and that was kind of, funny. It had its little chuckles, but for the most part, the humor just wasn't there for me in Unmasked. And, I get that they were trying to do a spoof, but, this was nowhere close to like Scary Movie level spoof. Like, it was more of like an alternate reality of Friday the 13th for me than it was a spoof. Like, they portrayed this as like, what if Jason lived and he went, live with his father, and now he's just kind of killing people here and there, and he fell in love. That's pretty much what I gathered from this movie. And it was kind of a mesh up, because whenever he finally takes the mask off, he looks a shitload like the Toxic Avenger. I mean, they could have used this mask in, a Toxic film and got away with it. So it was really kind of almost a ripoff of Toxic, considering that, this woman's blind and he falls in love with her, and the way his face looks. Basically, it's Toxic Avenger again, without, the fucking chemical ooze bath, and the fact that, he's not an anti-hero. But so you kind of got a mix of Toxic Avenger and Friday the 13th. And, I guess it is what it is. Of course, this is not a trauma film, which is weird because it felt a lot like a trauma film. But, it just kind of in that kind of campy, low budget feeling, genre. So, if you get into a lot of the stuff from Trauma, you would probably really enjoy Unmasked Part 25. But for me, I guess I would give this, I don't want to say a 4. You know what? I'd give it a 5. I'll give it, medium space, middle of the road type of movie, because the slasher aspect was done well. The killing scenes look good. It was original, man. It was interesting to watch. I don't know that I would go back and watch this again. I don't think it's something that I would pull down or have friends over and go, oh, you want to fucking watch something super amazing? Let's watch Unmasked, But it is one of those type of films where it was worth the watch one time. So I'd go ahead and give it a middle of the road 5. And this is Academy release. I kind of dig the cover, man. It's not really an amazing cover. The cover kind of screams Mummy to me, because he's all bandaged. He's bandaged up. It kind of looks like it would be a mummy flick, but it's not. And it says, it's a cold, cruel world, but Jackson can hack it. So, yeah, man, that is Unmasked Part 25. Of course, I have it on VHS. I do believe that they were DVD and Blu-ray releases of this. It's streaming on Tubi. It's also on Prime Video, which I saw it there as well. If streaming's your thing and you want to check out Unmasked Part 25 for yourself, you could watch it there. Or, as always, you could go out, grab yourself a VHS copy of this. I got a pretty good deal on this, but I believe that this is around like a $25, $30 tape. Which isn't horrible for a movie. Yeah, that's kind of the cutoff for me as a collector. If there's something that looks really good, I'm super interested in, that's about the max that I would spend on a tape, is about $30. I never spend beyond that, really. Most of my collection is going to be, quarter tapes. It's going to be from thrifting and things like that, because not only do I enjoy, watching these movies, I really enjoy getting out in the wild and coming across these tapes, at thrift stores and shit like that. So the majority of my collection comes from there. There's not many tapes on the walls that I've spent, more than a couple bucks for. But if you want to grab a VHS copy of this, you can for about 25 or 30 bucks. They're out there. I wouldn't spend more than that on it. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today's episode 5 of It Came From Beyond the Video Store Shelves. If you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate all the support. It helps out big time, man. And, we're going to be doing a bunch more of these. I got VHS falling out the ass around here, so we have plenty of backlog. I've still been doing horror. I haven't even touched action and comedy yet. So, yeah, there's plenty, man. If you enjoy these videos, hang around. And if you don't want to watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube, you could find us streaming audio pretty much anywhere where you could get your podcasts at. We're on Google, we're on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio. It's out there. So just search It Came From Beyond the Video Store Shelves, and you'll be able to find the audio podcast version as well if you'd prefer to follow it that way. And so next episode, which will be coming out in, over the next couple of days, we're going to take a look at Zombie Nightmare. So this came out in, just see if there's a date on this box, 1987, and it has some pretty sweet artwork. I guess it looks kind of voodoo-ish. I think this is going to be a voodoo zombie flick, which is always a fun ride. And, hang in there. Next week, we're going to talk about, if this is worth a shit or not. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging around, man. Until next time, you guys take it easy.
This is amazing. Don't tell me. You're that guy in that movie, aren't you?
Precisely. And after 25 sequels, he's ready to swing out on his own. Jackson's through with special effects. Now he wants the real thing. It's a regular nightmare on Carnaby Street as Jackson goes after every new wave yuppie London underground party-going poser in town. Jackson's career is stuck in a rut, and he just can't seem to get out of character.
A psychopathic killer. Half human, half killer.
I'm a freak.
A freak. Learn to live with it.
It's an outrageous movie within a movie within a movie. Just your typical love story. Boy's about to stab girl. Boy meets girl. Boy gets girl.
You came after all. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude or anything. It's just that it's late. I didn't expect you to show up. My name is Shelley. Don't be shy. Come on now. I want to know everything about you.
Everything? Let me enlighten you.
I'm a monster.
Monster?
I watched my little son grow up. It didn't take long to see what you were.
Back, ye baffled fiends. The hand of death is on me. Not yours. It's over. My dull eyes can fix him not, but all things swim around me, and the earth heaves as were beneath me.
That was wonderful. You know, it's not often I meet a man with such an appreciation for literature.
It's not often that I meet a woman. You know, Shelley, before I met you, I was terribly lonely. I had no one. Everything's different now. I don't know what it is, but I feel certain that one day, life's going to be just perfect for us.
Did you like that? Perhaps you're scared of me. Would you like to be Mama's slave? Well, answer me, little boy.
Would you put that woman through this hell? Would you create another offspring like yourself?
Pregnant. I'm going to have a baby. Our baby.
Please. Forgive me. It's a hell of a life being a monster.
And it's a hell of a movie, being a parody of every slash-trash gore-fest of the last decade. Hand of Death, Part 25. It's more fun than a barrel of body parts.